Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise. It's the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High bless this lesson this evening. Gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth. So we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Revelation is coming. The Father is revealing many truths that the Gentiles have been confederate in keeping from us. They're still confederate to this day. But we're going to see from some of this information where many of these new thoughts and where this information originated from. And you're also going to see why they took away the pictures, the sculptures, the statues that showed what the people that inhabited these lands looked like. When the Most High sent the Holy Spirit and she's been teaching us many things, and then she just confirms it with more proof. And it's just an amazing thing and an amazing time as we see the Gentiles working overtime to keep us from actually really looking at what fulfillment of prophecy really looks like. They're still talking about civil war between Democrats and Republicans. I was cracking up checking out BP Earthwatch's last video. Don't watch very many of them, but that most I kind of led me to that one. And they're just talking about how it doesn't matter who you vote for anymore. Even Paul admitting that it doesn't matter who you vote for. That the Democrats and the Republicans have both sold out to the deep state. And the thing is this. Democrats and Republicans haven't worked for the Israelites the entire time. And you've been totally fine with that. Your problem now is that neither group is working for you. See, when both groups were working on your behalf, you were willing to overlook many things. But now that you're seeing that both groups are now not for your benefit, now you want to act as if, this just isn't working out. They're not for the American people. They're for the billionaires. But that's been the case this entire time. They've never been for the true aborigines of these lands. They've never been for the true original people of these lands. They've never been for the Israelites. But see, you're not from these lands. So they would give you benefits because, they got many benefits as well. They were just sharing the wealth with you. But now that you've come to the end of your reign on our lands, now the Most High is not allowing you to get those benefits anymore. And now you have a problem. And what I find pretty hilarious is the fact that you seem to think that you, Gentiles, are in a position to tell the world why the Most High is upset with you. See, now you've come to the conclusion that your people and the nation that you've built here is under judgment. I am getting that consistent theme from the Gentiles. They're admitting finally that America, this system that they have, is under judgment. But see, they seem to think they're in a position to tell the Most High what he can be upset about and what he can't be upset about. See, they're like, well, we've been killing, all these babies. We've been aborting all of these babies, and that's why we're now under judgment. When the scriptures told you that you, in Genesis 15:13, that you were going to have the Most High's chosen people, enslaved for 400 years. And when those 400 years are over with, that the country that had us enslaved is going to have to pay. See, all of a sudden, you guys don't seem to believe in the Bible when it says that. You want to, well, I'm just going to, take my pen and kind of cross that section out and say it's because of abortion. Trust me, there's many things that you've done. But in that Bible that you walk around and say that you love, it's letting you know that you're going to have to pay for what you did to the Most High's chosen people. And a big part of it also is hiding our identities, calling us, by words, which is what you're still doing today. Been looking at these stories, and I guess up in Idaho, they were attacking a library because they didn't like the books that were being, presented. And one of them didn't like a book because it was about Frederick Douglass, and African Americans. And, they're having a hard time with, reconstructing history, as they call it. But it's really just exposing the lies that they have been, pushing in history. Critical race theory. They got to have some kind of a title to try to call it something. It's just exposing your lies. So you're going to realize today that much of the information that has been shared with the world had its origination in around the area of Central America. The Mayaks, Palenque. That this is where much of the information originated from. We've discussed this before, but this other book we're going to look at goes into that as well. And that many of these other nations admitted where they got the information from, admitted where these, intellectuals came from. And the whole world has been trying to pretty much just reverse where this information came from. Try to make it seem as if it came from the so-called white Europeans. But the Most High is going to expose this truth because those are the times that we're in. So you get a lot of, they've been putting up a lot of pastors, and these pastors pretty much are just there to entertain you. You even got people that are so-called in the truth. And all they're there to do is to entertain you. Keep you from researching. Keep you from looking and researching as you should be. Not about teaching anything new. Not about helping you grow. Not about opening up, other avenues and, other directions for you to go ahead and delve into. That's not important to them. Just keeping you chasing your tail and following what they say. That's all that matters. You can take a look here again at the secret of the Illuminati. Again, I think they dropped the price to $3,800. I said, but you can see how expensive this book is, and they just trying to hide a lot of this important information. I'm going to read this section right here about chapter 2, the Serpent Kings. Okay? Nagas, serpent worship, was practiced all over the world at one time. The Nagas were a highly civilized people who ruled over the whole of Hindustan. It is believed that they originally came from across the Pacific to Burma, and from there spread into Asia and Africa, bringing with them great knowledge. The language which is spoken by the Hindus is very similar to the Maya tongue. Moreover, they worshipped the serpent in the same way as did the ancient peoples of Central America. Augustus Le Plungian, author of Maya Atlantis, states that it is the opinion of learned scholars in India that the Nagas came originally from Patala, the Antipodes, which is Central America. Now, see, we know that a lot of times a lot of Gentiles, white Gentiles, don't want to accept information coming from darker skinned Gentiles. But you have to be open to going and looking at other information and letting them speak for themselves. Why can't the so-called Indians, East Indians, speak for themselves? How come they can't have an opinion to tell you where these people came from? It makes so much sense as to why when Columbus came over to the Americas, that he was calling the people here, the Aborigines, Indians. These so-called Indians had been teaching all over the place. They had been spreading all this information. So they knew what they looked like. So it would be, so when they got over here and they found, India superior, they found our people over here, which they knew that we were already over here. They just finally had an opportunity to get into our lands and to see the land that they had never been able to see. See how much more, uh, further ahead we were, and get exposed to all this technology that they couldn't even dream of. So again, states that it is opinion of learned scholars in India that the Nagas came originally from Patala, the Antipodes, which is Central America. Now you're starting to see why these books are so expensive. Not because they're teaching you about devil worship, but see, people who are aligned with the priesthood of Mahan, that's all that they do is make false accusations. Hide books, hide information, but never go in and try to explain it. Never prove anything. It well may be that these people, with their deep understanding of the universal laws, came from the East and the West and brought their knowledge not only to Asia and India, but in time also to the Middle East. So they're always trying to give the so-called Asians all this credit. They're always trying to give the so-called East Indians all this credit. But they're telling you themselves that this information came from the area of Central America. Language and sound can reveal many things regarding the past. Is it a coincidence that so many words are the same in lands as far apart as India and the Yucatan? Remember, that's where the Mayaks were, okay? In Chaldea, a title of the chief of the Magi was Nargal, while the Hindu word Naga came to mean initiate or adept. The Nagas had, let's see here, been thought to be semi-divine when they first arrived in Hindustan. The Mayan word is nakal. The verb nakal, well, this is what they, before we get into that, this shows you, is from the book, the first edition, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. This shows you what the people in Central America looked like before they decided they were going to hide it. These were the statues that were there. You see, the later editions, they took all this out. If you've been rocking with me for a while, you've already seen this, but we're just putting these connections together. Number 6, without Atlantis, how can we explain the fact that the early Egyptians were depicted by themselves as red men on their own monuments? And on the other hand, how can we account for the representations of Negroes on the monuments of Central America? Desiree Charnay, now engaged in exploring those monuments, has published in the North American Review for December 1880 photographs of a number of idols, exhumed at San Juan de Teotihuacan, from which I select the following strikingly negroid faces. See, just like, they don't allow the East Indians to come up with their own history, they also are going to manipulate the people that were actually in so-called Central America. They're going to give you different people, different looking people, and hide who were the people there originally. See, this is what is all going on in Revelation. This is what's going on with end times. That's why the other nations are so hell bent on pushing, we got to give more money to the Ukraine. There's a counteroffensive going on. We got to give more money to the Ukraine. I know we've already given them 40 billion. We got to give them another 13 billion. It's our responsibility to help them. That's what you guys need to be concentrating on. End times prophecies. That's there was an airplane that took off and it has nukes on it. Oh, Russia went in and violated the airspace of this country. All this has nothing to do with revelation. This is not a revealing. That's not a revealing of anything. All that is smoke and mirrors, because they've been the ones that have been responsible for hiding everything. How are they going to be the ones to reveal the truth when they're the ones that have been responsible for hiding everything? That's why we have the first edition, and you see these pictures. You go back and get the later editions, and they took all these pictures out, and it's got some random pictures in the middle, but all this information hidden. This is the fulfillment of prophecy. So right there again, in the middle, Augustus Leplandion, author of Maya Atlantis, states that it is the opinion of learned scholars in India that the Nagas came originally from Patala, the Antipodes, which is Central America. Nagas came from Central America. What do those Nagas look like? Had strikingly negroid faces, which they've gone out. Now you understand why they change all these editions and they take all this information out. Now it makes sense. Again, and on the other hand, how can we account for the representations of Negroes on the monuments of Central America? Before Europeans showed up, we had statues. This is what you would see before they came in and started changing everything. But see, they got their pastors. All they want to do is go out there, put their faces up, waste your time, regurgitate the same information over and over again, not teach you anything new, because that's not what they're here to do. They're here to keep pushing the same old narrative of the war is coming, destruction is coming, Russia's doing this, Israel's getting ready to attack Iran, when they're all in it together. Dr. Leplandion says, besides the sculptures of long-bearded men seen by the explorer at Chichen Itza, there were tall figures of people with small heads, thick lips, and curly short hair or wool, regarded as Negroes. We always see them as standard or parasol bearers, but never engaged in actual warfare. The following cut is from the court of the palace of Palenque, figured by Stevens. The face is strongly Ethiopian. See, all this stuff is all hidden. The Nagas. The figure below represents a gigantic granite head found near the volcano of Tuxtla in the Mexican state of Veracruz at Caxapa. The features are unmistakably Negro or negroid. Okay? But of course, they're going to throw their little thing in there again as the Negroes have never been a seagoing race. Don't care about their breakdown. Don't care. They're going to say we were enslaved. Doesn't matter what they say. They've gone out of their way to hide information. So your breakdowns mean absolutely nothing. And all the people that are seeing this information and they're just ignoring it, hey, you're just making your own bed and you're going to lie in it. You're making that bed nice and comfortable for yourself. You're just going to lie in it. You're still going to continue with the lies about who was here originally and everything else. You're still going to push that land bridge theory BS and all that stuff. You make that bed, make it comfortable, make sure it's nice and warm, and you keep laying in it. Prove this wrong. Keep saying we're African Americans. You're digging your own grave. Keep calling us African Americans. You're digging your own grave. Keep on calling us bywords. No problem. Most High is keeping track. All of these things that you're doing are going to have consequences. You're going to hear the lies, but the Most High is giving you an opportunity to hear the truth. Are you going to embrace the truth or continue with the lie? The Most High is fair. He's giving you the opportunity to embrace this truth. Even on the walls are telling you the truth. The walls are telling you the truth. But the dwarf of Uxmal right here, look at all the people. Look at what they look like. This is what's on the walls. Imagine the pictures and the paintings that we haven't seen. The dwarf of Uxmal right here. I'll continue. Means to be elevated, to be raised. The serpent was a symbol of the great spirit, which fills the universe, okay, with its presence. In Egypt, it was depicted as a huge blue serpent with yellow scales. Its name was Neph. Chinese legends speak of the emperor of heaven, Tin Huang, as having the head of a man but the body of a serpent. The Mayan word for serpent or dragon was Khan. Khan was the title of the kings of several Asian countries, such as Afghanistan, Tartary, and Burma, until quite recently. See, our language has been all over the place in all these lands, and not until recently has this changed. The chief of the Manchus was called Kakan, which was an abbreviation for Kankan. The dragon has been used as a sacred symbol in many lands as well and can be seen as synonymous with the serpent. The Mayan rulers held the title Khan, and it may be because of this that the serpent, although a symbol of wisdom on the one hand, has also been associated with evil. Apollo has been depicted as killing the evil python, and Krishna, the great seven-headed monster, serpent Ananta, enemy of the gods. The story of the Garden of Eden speaks of the serpent which tempts Eve. Mayan legend speaks of, now this is, I'm sure many of these stories that are in the Bible come from a previous source. This one seems a lot like Cain and Abel. So check this part out, okay? Mayan legend speaks of Prince Ko and his queen Mu. Their story resembles that of the Egyptian god Osiris and Isis. And it would make sense because these stories would just kind of go all over the place and they would just change the names. His sister wife, Osiris, was treacherously killed by his evil brother Set, who wanted both the queen and country for himself. In the same way, Prince Ko is murdered by his brother Ak. Both Ko and Ak were princes of the Khan, or Serpent dynasty. After this betrayal, evil times fell on the land, and the queen was forced to flee to the lands of the rising sun. So then learned that a great she then learned that a great cataclysm had occurred, which had destroyed her land, the land which had been called the glory of the ocean by Mayan writers. However, she was aware that a few of the islands had remained above the waters. The Troan IMS, which speaks of this queen, ends here. But might it be possible that Queen Mu eventually found her way to Egypt? It is known that Herodotus believed the Egyptians to be boasting when they declared that their ancestors had come from the lands of the West, and that these had been the most ancient of peoples. Okay? We know where the Egyptians got their information from Abraham, from the Hebrews, from the Israelites. You know, I know they talk about the Sumerian texts. We're not sure exactly, where they're getting all these texts from. We said we're kind of like stuck just listening to where they say they get these texts from, where they say they get these writings from. Okay, but you can see, they just took our information, raised up their empires, but they just, but they're not giving credit to where they get the information from. And when you bring this information to them, we already know what they're going to be doing. This right here. When you hit a Christian with too many facts that they can't dispute. That's the faces we're going to be getting from them. That's what they're doing in their house. That's what they're doing at home. Because they know they can't prove this wrong. They know that that they've been duped. Because many of the things now that they have been taught, they're realizing, slowly they're admitting that many of the things they've been taught aren't true. Come on, it takes a lot to admit all of a sudden now that Trump and the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about you. That must just be tearing your heart out. To have to admit that Biden and the Democrats really don't care about you. That there's two systems, that they can go out on January 6th and do whatever the hell they want and get away with it. But if we step out of line even a little bit, we get the whole book thrown at us. Even still, you guys haven't witnessed the full weight of how much this is going to be switching. The way that we were treated, you're getting double. The way that you're going to have to follow the rules or suffer the consequences is going to be way worse. The way the rules are going to apply to you is going to be way worse. You just think about that, how you guys, apply those rules to us in order to raise yourselves up. And that's about to switch. And even at the end, when you're admitting this truth, you're admitting the fact that these politicians don't care about you. You still won't go all the way and say that, you know what? It's been like this. If I'm going to admit this truth, I need to admit it all the way. That's what you Gentiles should be doing. You know what? The so-called black people, the so-called African Americans, they've been complaining this whole time about unfair treatment. And I've just turned my head away. I just turned a blind eye. I put my head in the ground, just like the ostrich, and didn't care because it didn't affect me. But now that it's affecting me, I think that we all should come together. That's not going to happen, but at least you should be admitting the truth. That this ill treatment that you're now complaining about has been going on from Jump Street. Let's see if you'll admit that. The story of the two Mayan princes illustrates the two principles, the solar and the lunar. And see, this is much deeper. This is talking about the sun and the moon. As much as, oh, no, don't look at the moon, don't look at the stars, don't look at the sun, that's all the devil. Well, these stories have a deeper esoteric meaning. It's not just, the little bit, the superficial things that you think of. There's deeper meanings going on here. The solar and the lunar, the positive and the negative, which must be kept in perfect balance if they are not to bring disaster. These energies permeate the universe, the earth, and also man himself. Prince Ak represented the lunar or negative force. It was when this force became predominant and tipped the scales that Atlantis and much of the rest of the world suffered catastrophe. It should be understood that the Mayan Khans were initiates in the same way as the Egyptian kings were. And that should be backwards. Like the Egyptians were the initiates just like the Khans were, because it originated with the Mayaks, for our people, with the ones in Central America. That's where everything originated from. So even the way he kind of worded it should have been backwards. But hey, we get it. We understand. They possessed secret knowledge of the cosmos and its laws. Yes, our people possessed secret knowledge of the cosmos and its laws. And they guarded the ancient wisdom well in their temples, where they performed sacred rites. He said, we understand that. 2nd Ezra 14. Some information is for everyone. Some is for a select few. That's in your Bible. Now, if you're afraid to read the sacred text and the higher level reading, then then it's not for you, and that's fine. But stop trying to attack the ones that are called to read and embrace this new information. So again, they possess secret knowledge of the cosmos and its laws, and they guarded the ancient wisdom well in their temples, where they performed sacred rites. In similar fashion to the Egyptians, the Khans considered themselves to be the representatives of the gods on earth, and therefore it is probable that it was because they understood the nature of the Creator that they called themselves serpents. Now, we understand that because, hey, we're Psalms 147, 19, and 20. These records were given to our people. The Most High made a covenant with our people. We are representing the Most High here in this plane, in this matrix. Part of our punishment was to lose that connection with the Most High. But part of our rise, again, is to get that connection back once again. And all the other nations know this. And that's why all the other nations are confederate with trying their best to keep us from getting it, which they know that they can't. But even when they see these events happening and the Most High reconnecting with us, they're going out of their way to act as if they don't see it. But they know a 1,000-pound gorilla is right there in front of them and they see it. And it's terrifying them because all their efforts to keep us separated from our power have failed. And they see us getting stronger every day. And as we rise, their kingdom is falling. Their kingdom is being exposed. As we rise, they fall. That's how it's always been. As we fell, they rose. When we fell, they rose. Now that we are ascending spiritually, they are falling spiritually. Now you're all talking about their, their governments, their representatives, how they aren't, they're not here protecting them. They're not here to help them. They're admitting the fact that these, Democrats and Republicans aren't for them. They're admitting that the system is broken. They're admitting that things are, never going to go back to the same. I've heard a lot of these content creators talking about admitting that things are never going back to how they used to be. That takes a lot because they thought they were going to rule forever. They're still putting out hope that, yeah, things aren't going to go back to the way they used to be, but we don't have to worry about that because we're going to get raptured up out of here. That's the next lie that you guys are about to realize is a bunch of BS. You ain't going nowhere. You made your bed, get comfortable, and lie in it. You made all these decisions. You set up all this, you set the society up like this. You don't get to leave. You're going to be fixing it. Double. Now you're seeing what double looks like. When the Most High said that you have to pay double. How do you pay double for, if the Most High is only punishing you for abortions, how do you pay double for that? Or does it make more sense that you enslaved the Most High's chosen people for 400 to 500 years? That you're going to get 1,000 years? That you're going to have to be under the rulership of the Israelites, under the rulership of the Most High, and you're going to have to clean this place up? That makes more sense to me. But we'll see. We'll see who's right. We'll see who is correct here at the end. But right now, your prophecies ain't looking so hot. The things that you've been saying ain't working out too much. Your founding fathers and the great country they set up for you and the great history that you've been telling us about is being exposed as being a bunch of lies. Now you're admitting that things are not going to go back to normal. Things are only getting worse. Now you're admitting that your representatives don't care about you. Now you're admitting that, there's all these things that have been happening just aren't fair. So like I said, many of the things that you've been holding on to, believing, are being exposed as being false. So if you're at that point that you're admitting that, then you don't get to continue thinking that you're gonna now tell the Most High, yeah, I know all these other things that we know I've been wrong about, but I know that for sure you're only doing this to us because of abortion. Nah, I said you guys are batting about 1,000 of being wrong. I'm gonna believe that you're still wrong, and the Most High is gonna keep beating you down until you admit the truth. You admit everything, just like it says in Jeremiah 16:19. You're gonna come to the Most High saying that your fathers have inherited lies, just like in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5. You guys are going to admit that these are the Most High's chosen people. How we've erred. How do we not see this? We've had them at the bottom this whole time. How did we not know that these were the Most High's chosen people? I'm going to believe what the Word says, and not your Gentile breakdown. All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement of the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom, family.